Good evening, everyone, and happy International Holocaust Survivor Day. My name is Cedric Geffen, and I'm the President of March of the Living Australia. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to what I am sure will be an enormously heartwarming and memorable tribute to our beloved Holocaust survivors. Before we begin tonight's proceedings, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which we work and live, and on which this online event is being hosted this evening. We pay our respects to Indigenous elders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. It is always a monumental feeling to be part of anything that can be claimed as the first. And tonight we are honored and privileged to be part of the inaugural, the first ever International Holocaust Survivor Day, dedicated wholly and solely to paying tribute to the enormous impact that the survivors have made on us all. We are here to share some stories of the lessons, legacy, and love that they have bestowed on us. We have chosen a panel of 5, but we could have chosen hundreds, if not thousands, and many more. So please join me in welcoming our distinguished panelists, members of the Breitberg family, members of the Lipson family, Yael Friedman, Esmond Kielov, and members of the Scholl Michaelis family. We will kick off shortly with a 10-minute video, followed by the session with the panelists, and at the end, there'll be a short Q&A session. So, without further ado, please increase the volume on your device to high, and let's kick off with this short video. Thank you.
On behalf of all of us at the International March of the Living, I welcome you to today's tribute to a very special group of very special individuals. Since our inception in 1988, close to 300,000 participants, most of them students, have participated on the March of the Living from Auschwitz to Birkenau on Holocaust Remembrance Day. They have been privileged to be accompanied by Holocaust survivors from around the globe. These survivors have shared their dreams, their hopes, and their experiences during the Shoah. They have been our mentors, our inspiration, our motivations to continue telling their stories and sharing the meanings of the lessons of the Holocaust. Today, we offer them a heartfelt thank you. Alumni from around the globe will share with you what it means to carry the message of Holocaust survivors in their hearts and in their walk through the rest of their lives. To the Holocaust survivors who join us today, we thank you. We thank you for being our inspiration. We thank you for being the inspiration to the rest of the world as we carry your memories, your stories, and the meaning of your lives through our lives, today, tomorrow, and for the rest of eternity. To Darabala Kulam.
Hello, International March of the Living friends and family. For Holocaust Survivor Day, I'd like to pay tribute to Yesha Kreiner and Dr. Raoul Artal. Yesha for finding joy and happiness in almost every moment and always giving me a good laugh. And for Dr. Raoul Artal for dedicating his life in medicine to remembering and honoring the Holocaust. To the both of you, I thank you, I salute you. It is such a blessing to call you friends and to have marched with you.
Hi Paula, I want you to know that I love you very much. You've honored me with the title of your adopted grandson, and I cherish our bond. Every time I call in to check in with you, I end up receiving so much love and affection from you that I forget who called to check on who. You're an inspiration to me, full of humor and positivity, and I'm grateful that I met you 14 years ago thanks to Moniz and the March.
Mania Huli's story is truly inspirational. The way she kept true to her identity even through the challenges of war and how courageous she was is truly incredible. Mania, this special day I want to promise you that your legacy will forever continue and that for generations and generations, your story won't be forgotten by me and by others. You are an example that we must remember and never forget.
We didn't ask each other's names, but I will never forget I got to see you and you gave me lots of hugs and kisses. Baruch Hashem, I felt connected with you even though I don't know you well, and you inspired me to show genuine love. I will never forget your pain from the past. At the same time, I will never forget your warm smile like a sunshine. Shalom, shalom. Stay safe.
We're the daughters of Ben Midler, a survivor from Białystok, Poland. Our dad, Ben Midler, lost his whole family during World War II and survived after being interned in 6 camps.
We've learned some really big lessons from him. The primary one is love and support are the key to happiness. Trust and love were at the core values. Strength comes from within, and when bad things happen, we need to put the past behind us, move forward, and don't hold any grudges.
Our dad has been an inspirational hero to us, to our children, and to their children. He talks at many schools, and at 92, he's still active in his faith. At 88, he became a bar mitzvah, and his faith and his love have gotten him through this long, fulfilling life, and we will always remember.
Irving Roth was an impactful, engaging, and a truly once-in-a-lifetime speaker when it comes to talking about the Holocaust, what led to it, what happened, and what we have to do to avoid it from happening again. The world is a sadder place without him. It is a much better place for him having lived in it, and his words will carry on forever.
Hi Syria! We just wanted to make this quick video to thank you so much for always being there for us. You've taught us so much and we're so grateful to have you as our third grandmother. You've really made such a big impact on our lives.
Thank you for teaching us the true meaning of kindness and the importance of seeking the best in people. You mean the world to us, and we can't wait until the next time we're able to see you again in person. We love you.
Inspired, in awe, utter admiration and respect. These are all terms that come to mind when thinking about the Holocaust survivors that I have had the utter privilege of encountering on my journeys with March of the Living. They are the ultimate role models. How can one begin to describe the impact of the survivors by looking at just one of these survivors, A.B. Goldberg from Melbourne, Australia, when he calls on humankind to love, not hate, to see one another as equals and to treat one another as equals, and to combat all forms of hatred and injustice. If only we could live up to the teachings of our Holocaust survivors, the world would be a much better place.
I am a 20-time marcher. All of the 45 survivors with whom I marched are precious. I idolize my friend and 10-time marcher, 98-year-old Sam Ron, for his continuing altruism. In 1946, during the Bricha, Sam rescued children as shown here. He continues to educate all types of students.
I'm Kathy Kaser, and I'd like to honor Edith Jalbar, a survivor who was a hidden child in France during the war. I think the stories of hidden children are so important to include in the collection of survival stories. Edith continues to talk to young people around the world about her experiences. I admire her so much and send her all my love.
Hi, my name is Randy Freed. I've traveled with the Los Angeles delegation of the March of the Living for the past 13 years. A shout out to Jack Adler, an incredible survivor who's got a great sense of humor. And that humor is what allows so many people to connect with such dark, scary, horrible, painful history and to learn and to see humanity. Thank you, Jack. We love you.
My mother was Carmen Kakis Russo from Drama, Greece. She was 18 when the occupation began. Instead of going to university, she joined EPUN and then ELAS to fight the Nazis. She never went to the camps. She survived, although 90% of Greece's Jews perished. I honor her legacy of courage.
I remember our survivor, Bina Polonsky. I remember her joy, her charisma, her inspirational story, her love of life, and her courage to keep on going, to be a proud Jew, a proud mom, a proud grandmother. Her story inspires me and teaches me to be proud of my identity and to remember our past with all of its lessons, so that never again means never again.
Today, I would like to honor Saba Feniga, who accompanied us on March of the Living in 2005. Despite suffering unimaginable horrors and loss of loved ones, Saba inspired me with her strength and resilience and her determination to speak out against hatred and intolerance so that the 6 million Jewish souls who perished in the Shoah will never be forgotten.
Since my March of the Living trip 10 years ago, Hetty Baum has remained an important part of my life. We have enjoyed many visits together in her apartment and lots of phone calls and emails throughout the years. Thank you, Hetty, for being the wonderful person that you are. I'm so grateful for our friendship.
Today, during Holocaust Survivor Day, I want to honor our dear survivor, Mania Huri. Your faith, courage, and compassion are contagious and will remain in my thoughts forever. You showed me that love is stronger than hate and that faith can move mountains. Thank you so much for all of your lessons. Sending a big hug from all of us in Panama and hoping to see you soon.
Hi everyone, this is Dana Arshin and I am a March of the Living alum. I want to honor my 99-year-old grandfather, Nat Ross, who survived Auschwitz and lost most of his family in the Holocaust. I do everything I can to keep his story and his memories alive.
I had the honor of marching with Estelle and Adele in the March of the Living BJE delegation in 2019. We got to sing together. I was able to hear stories of how she grew up and how she came to where she is today. And I feel so grateful that I was able to get to know her through the March of the Living experience. And I'm wishing her all the best.
Hi Rosa, my name is Suguru and I was volunteering at Bridges for Peace in Israel. I had an opportunity to visit you and deliver some food and supplies. You shared your story, how you survived the Holocaust and about your family and about your friends. And you told me to share that story when I go back to Japan. And that's what I've been doing now. I had a lot of opportunities to talk about my experiences in Israel and I've been sharing your stories. I hope you're doing well, stay safe, and may we meet again. Shalom.
Thank you very much. I hope that short video gave a succinct but clear view of how precious our survivors are and how every single person around the world that has encountered them can only talk of them in absolute glory. So we're now going to turn our focus to our panelists. And we're going to start with the Breitberg family. Welcome to the matriarch and one of our survivor honorees, Esther Breitberg. Esther, you are looking absolutely wonderful. So wonderful to see you. And obviously some of her family members, Ellie, George, and others. So we're going to quickly view a short clip or two from the trip that we shared with Esther, Ellie, and George.
Cuba, Esther left Beaches born and raised. This is where she grew up, and this is where she played.
Mama, she would always be positive and together. She always used to tell us, tomorrow will be a better day. That was until Tadashi died of pleurisy in 1942. Only 6 weeks later, my younger sister Hannah died of a broken heart. She could not go on without her beloved father.
Our Booba is living in Australia now. She's surrounded by family. Although she'll never have her immediate family back, her hope and courage has brought us into the world. We are her family. Family not to replace, but to have and live with. She will always have us, and we will always have her.
I remember one Passover, the last Passover before the war. We were all in my auntie's place. We heard that somebody was stabbed with a knife, and we were scared that it was Isaac, my brother. Things were getting really scary.
Ellie, I know that your Booba has, and long may it last, played a huge part in your life. What did it mean to you to accompany her on her mortal journey?
Thanks, Cedric. And thanks so much for those clips. That was absolutely beautiful to be able to see that.
Nice, yes.
I
didn't expect it.
What does Booba mean to me, or what did it mean to me for Booba to come on the March of the Living? I mean, it meant everything to us. It was the year after Zeta passed away. She had never been before, so she left basically after the camps, and then never came back up until that day that we all went together. And Dad and I, Dad was there too, we were talking about how it was almost like her inner child came out. She remembered Polish after how many years, and she remembered every street and every place that she grew up, and it just sparked more memories and more stories that we were then able to write down, and now we have them forever. And to be with her in those moments where we found her father's grave, I can't even express it. It was the most special experience we'll all have, and it'll be ingrained in our memories really, really forever. And I feel so lucky. I really feel so lucky to have her then and have her now, and we're just very lucky. She means the world to us.
I'm the lucky one because I've got such beautiful grandchildren and a son and a daughter and so many of the great grandkids what I adore. And
Absolutely.
I'm the lucky one now.
No, we're the lucky ones, Esther. We're the lucky ones. But as far as the life lessons that, because this event is titled Lessons, Legacy, and Love. Ellie, what are the lessons that you can say that your Booba has imparted on you?
I think strength, and I know Booba doesn't know this, but I think she has the strength that no one else I know has, and to be able to bring that to me and to impart that on my girls and my family, it's really important about just to have the inner strength, but also the strength in Judaism and the strength in family, because that's what keeps you going. And I've definitely learned that from Booba, and that's what I will pass on to my family. And the value of Judaism, I think, as well. It's, Judaism and our relationship with God ebbs and flows, but Judaism is still at the center. And that's something that I've got from Booba as well. And then just the love of family, because that's the central component of our lives, and that's because of Booba as well.
Fantastic. George, anything you'd like to add?
Just to say that I think Mum epitomizes the concept of survivorship. She survived the war. That's obviously why we're here tonight. But she survived the death of her greatest love in the world, my father, her husband, and to see her be able to, to function, as she says, but to actually thrive and have that courage to go on March Living after he passed away. I think that's amazing. And every day she lives for her grandchildren, and Ellie said it as courage. I say it as survivorship. All those characteristics that make her so determined.
Fantastic. Esther, may you add mehr Wesling bis 120 in good health. Thank you. We're now going to move on, and the next participant or panelist, her encounter with survivors, not coming from a survivor family, is somewhat different, but I'm sure that you will see and hear just how powerful the impact of survivors has been on her shortly.
I started bawling, and I don't know what I was feeling. I was feeling a mixture of happiness to see that they were there, but a very, very deep sadness as well. And a Holocaust survivor who I didn't know, her name was Adele, came up to me and she grabbed me and she wiped away my tears, and she shook me and she said to me, and she gave me a hug, which I will never forget, and she said to me, "We are here." And that is something I will remain in my mind for the rest of my life. We need to do this march to show that we are here.
Yael, you formed an incredible bond with the survivor on your trip. You had an amazing experience. And what was so special about your connection with that survivor?
So I actually did not know Adele, the survivor in that clip, before that moment. And I didn't actually get to, unfortunately, speak to her for very long after. But she still left a huge lasting impression on me. So the context of that video is we were at a ceremony, and everyone got up and was dancing, and I was watching a group of survivors dancing together. And it was a really beautiful moment. And I was feeling a whole mix of emotions, and I was trying very hard not to cry. But like every day on that trip, I couldn't help it, and I was the tears just came. And I was just so surprised when she came up to me and she started to comfort me. Someone who has really not faced much adversity in my life. I was just really surprised when she had that strength to come up to me and to give me that message that we are here. I guess during that trip I really did struggle, and there were many moments where I questioned a lot of things. I questioned my Jewish identity. And that moment was a real turning point for me. I guess I just thought, she's got the strength to go on that march, and to give that message that it is our duty to never forget and to remember, but it's also our duty to continue. And as I said, it was a real turning point, because I guess I realized that we are here, and it is our duty to continue. We live in a thriving Jewish community, and I guess I just, from that moment, I was like, I'm not going to let this, I am going to live a really meaningful Jewish life, and I am going to continue to uphold Jewish values and to pass that on. So she really gave me the strength. And I often think back to that moment when I have moments where, I think things don't go quite right for me. And I just think, hang on, there's so many people that have just faced so much adversity in their life, and they continue. So, yeah.
Absolutely. You had on your trip itself, you had a survivor by the name of Feige on your trip, if I remember correctly.
That's right, yeah.
Did you have some special moments with Feige as well?
Oh, definitely. Feige, she is so special, and it was just amazing going on that journey with her. None of my grandparents went through the Holocaust, so that I grew up. All of my friends growing up, their grandparents were Holocaust survivors. My husband, all four of his grandparents are Holocaust survivors. But that was really my first experience where I really had the opportunity to hear her story and to walk with her And she was just, as well, just such a positive person. She often used to say to us that, you know, if we have hate in our heart, there's no room for love. And, you know, she really taught us that message that we need to, you know, to be positive, to have love in our hearts, to be able to continue. And yeah, so that was a really big, a big part of my journey and a big message that was given to me.
Fantastic. Gail, thank you so much. And yeah, it's wonderful to see you again and hear of your wonderful news of a growing family. So, mazal tov.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We're now going to move on to another panelist. So, Ben, how are you, mate? Good to see you.
Good, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And your Bubba is there in Perth, sitting together with Shirley, my colleague and friend, also part of the Committee of Management of March of the Living. And I know that your Bubba is climbing such nachas from you personally, but also from the rest of your family. And to see her legacy, your mum, your siblings, your wider family, as she reflects on her life and what she went through. So, what makes your Bubba so special? What has she taught you that has impacted on who you are and what you do?
Yeah, it's funny. She, I remember first few days at work a couple of years ago at a new company, and something came up about Nana. I think she was in the newspaper about her story or something like that. And I remember sharing it with a colleague, and they were just completely shocked that I knew someone who had been through the Holocaust, and not only that it was my Nana. And they were just like asking so many different questions. And it just hit me in that moment that, you know, I'd spent all this time in Jewish schools and involved in March of the Living. And it was just so normal to me. But then for them, it was like, oh my God, she's a superwoman. Like, that's superhuman how someone could survive that. And yeah, I think even though we live on other sides of the country now, and you know, we don't get to see each other as much as we would like, especially in the last 2 years. But yeah, I think she's superwoman, and yeah, everything she's taught us is just about family and the importance of that, and also food. That's a big one. Things like, you know, always bargain, always buy wholesale, not retail, things like that. She's got a lot of good lessons for us, but mainly just appreciate life. And I think her resilience, like she's made it through everything and she's still smiling.
Look at her now. Look at her smiling there. She's hard to believe. Rivka, I don't know you personally, but I've heard so much about you from Shirley that it's an honor and a privilege to see you via Zoom. So, as they say, chazak ve'ematz. Ben, you're a madrich on March of the Living and we're accompanied by other survivors. Can you recall anything specific about what they said, how they conducted themselves on the program that really made a lasting impression on you?
I think it was the story, was it Yael that told earlier, just about the strength and the kind of perspective that survivor had. All the survivors that I encountered, and my Nana included, it was just a sense of the fact that we're here and that we're doing this and that we're kind of carrying on the legacy. And there was just an amazing aura around them that you just wanted to be around them and learn their lessons. And yeah, they were like celebrities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rivka, you're a celebrity. Absolutely. Ben, thank you very much. And we're now going to move to our next panelist. I had the privilege of going on one of my 7 mortal journeys with the late Tuvia Lipson Zal. And I can certainly vouch for the fact that I personally have taken away a number of key learnings from the experience I shared with him. And no doubt his granddaughter Mel, who's here with us, and his grandson Justin, who I need to find you because I need to unmute you as well. Justin, there you are. Sorry, I'm just unmuting you at the same time. That you can tell us a lot more of the impact that Tuvia had on your lives in just a moment. We'll first see a video clip and then I'll come back to you.
I was only 1 day old. When I was born here, in this house, where that woman, blonde woman, is looking out, in this room, that I talked to her mother last year. 26th of June 1925, I was born in this room here in this building. I remember my mother saying, children, we're living in such a miserable time. One thing don't forget, as long as you have your bed, your quilt, and your chair, you're still a human being. Once that will be taken away, that will be the end of us, and how right she was. And I'm now 81 years old, and what can I ask God? That I lived through such a Gehenna. I lived through the war. I have 2 sons and 6 grandchildren, and one of my grandsons is a pilot in Qantas. What more can I ask in life?
My name is Tuvia Lipson. I live in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm traveling with the Australian and New Zealand delegation. I have 2 numbers in my life that I will always remember. One number is 10,378, B, Auschwitz, Birkenau. The second number is KUV 13578, an officer in the Israeli army. And those 2 numbers I remember all my life. I arrived here the 20th of August 1944 with my father, my mother, my sister and myself here on this platform. They separated me from my mother and my sister, and I stood with my father. I recited Kaddish in the memory of my father, Yaakov Nachum ben Yosef Eliezer, mother Malka bat Chaim David, sister Carola bat Yaakov Nachum, uncles, aunties, cousins, friends, and 6 million men, women, and children had perished in the Holocaust.
Mel, you shared a very, very beautiful coincidence with me when I asked you to join this panel. Would you mind sharing that story with the audience?
Yeah, I think you need to show the video after next time. So I talk first and then the video after. So when you asked me, Cedric and Justin, to be on this panel, this day, International Holocaust Survivor Day, even though we're doing it today, the 24th of June, I think it falls on June the 26th, which is my Zeta's birthday. And he said that in the video, June 26, 1925, he was born. So I think June 26 is a day that we celebrate his birthday, we celebrate life when he was brought into this world. But now, on top of celebrating the life that his mother gave him, June 26 with International Holocaust Survivor Day is a day that we can celebrate the second life that he was given and the second life he lived. And the fact that he survived is, like what George said, the only reason that I can come here and talk to you today. And when I saw that it was June 26, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that is an incredible coincidence and a wonderful way to forever remember his birthday. Justin and Mel, your Zeta passed away quite recently. What for you are the main things that symbolize the incredible person that Tuvia was?
Justin, do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Come on, Justin.
I'll go first. Okay. I think for me, it's life, and just like living to, through adversity, through so many challenges, and to be able to come out on the other side and just be such an inspirational individual to so many people. I had the honor of going on the march with him back in 2007. And, for us, he was always just Zeta. He was just the person in our lives, who you have as your grandparents. Although he passed away in December, I think for me, what was maybe the most impactful was people who I had acquaintances with who had just reached out to me and had told me how much of a profound impact that he had had on their lives, having gone as a survivor on the march on a number of occasions, having spent time as a guide in the museum, and just being, a personality in the Melbourne community. And the fact that he had such a profound impact on so many people's lives and was able to inspire people to carry on regardless. And, he always used to say that as long as tomorrow is a little bit better than today, then everything will be okay. And, sometimes we face difficulties in our lives, but you can always simplify it very much. So, I think for me that's very much what it meant, and very difficult loss for I think for so many people, and definitely for our family.
Absolutely, thanks, Justin. Mel?
I echo everything Justin said. I think the way I can sum up the impact that my Zeta had on me is that even though he's hasn't been here for 6 months, I feel his presence every single day. We haven't seen him since December, but what he left behind, the legacy he left, everything, his positivity, his joking, all of his missions. Every day I think of him, I feel like I'm surrounded by him. So even though I haven't physically seen him, I feel like he's still with me. And exactly like what Justin said, which is his quote, and this was his mission: you have to believe in a better tomorrow. If you do not believe in a better tomorrow, the better tomorrow will never come. And that's what we live by every day.
Absolutely. And I was with your Zeta together with you, Justin, on that march in 2007 that we saw the clips from. And I can honestly say that he was a remarkable man, and what a privilege to have known him. So thank you. We're now going to move to our last panelists, and at this stage I'm going to ask people to add comments or questions or anything they would like, remarks in the chat, and hopefully we'll get to them during the Q&A session. I'm now going to go to our last panelist, and Martin Biggs, Zal, some of whose family members are in the audience this evening. Thank you for joining us. Played a huge part in my own personal knowledge of and engagement with the subject of the Holocaust, as he was also one of the survivors I was privileged to go on the march with on my very first Motul journey in 2007. His impact will be discussed and described not by a family member, but by someone who worked for and with Martin for many, many years, who described Martin to me on a number of occasions as his mentor and his friend. Let's see some clips from Martin's trip in 2007, and then we'll turn to Esmond Keelock.
I was born here in 1922. Our apartment was here part of the first floor where the balcony is. It's a house that belonged to my grandfather, and on the first floor we were sharing the first floor, two sort of separate apartments, but with a connection. You could open the door. This door actually leads to another room of my grandparents, and then was our apartment.
And we just went upstairs. It was the first time that he's actually been inside the room since the war. He's always come back but never actually gone inside, and it was a really amazing experience to be here with him and able to walk in be able to walk inside with him will be forever embedded with me. Papa turned 85 this year, and for him and Grandma, this trip is no ways physically or emotionally easy. I understand his need to come, for he, like many survivors, have a strong and overwhelming need to make sure this dark chapter in Jewish history is never forgotten or denied.
We were standing in rows, so whatever hard for me to describe you details. And he was walking through and pointing his finger, you come, and he shot him. Then the next one said, you come, and you shot him. None of us knew whether we will survive this Appelplatz affair.
As you and Martin went back many, many years, can you tell us something about how your relationship with Martin began?
It was shortly after we immigrated to Australia in 1996, and had the great privilege, one of the great privileges of my life, of meeting Martin. I was actually employed by a company which he had founded at the age of 52 years old and built it into Australia's largest office products distributor. And I had the great honor and privilege of working with Martin for a short while, and then with Victor, his son, became chief executive of the company for the next 20 odd years. But it extended further than that into unbelievable great friendship between ourselves and Victor and Ellen, my parents-in-law, Martin and Genya, and my wife and myself, a great friendship with Martin and Genya.
Yeah. So as far as the impact that Martin had on your life, or on some of the lessons that you took away from that relationship, what are the things that you can sort of put your finger on and say, these are things that that Martin imparted on me?
You know, it's difficult to sum it up in such a short time, as everybody would understand. You've once had the great chus and the great merit of being in the company of such hallowed people. But if I could just follow on the clip that you showed there of back in 2007, Martin gave the first part of his testimony outside his home, and then at Plashaw, where he was interned. And I'd like to sort of quote from his grandson Anthony, who gave a eulogy at after Martin's funeral just over 2 years ago, just short of 2 years ago. And Anthony Biggs said in his eulogy, he said, while tears streamed down the faces of everyone, Papa stood there strong and with a sense of accomplishment on his face. He was proud to be standing there in Poland. He was uplifted through the sharing of his story, and he was liberated from his dark past by forwarding his legacy to the next generation. That really encapsulates it. I mean, Martin was the sort of person that he had the weight of the world on his shoulders from his past, but there was no one more aware of having a sense of duty and determination to build a home in the future, not only for his family, but also for the Jewish people. You know, he was a man of faith. He was in shul every week. He could, until his death in the late 90s, and right up until then, he could recite any maftir of Torah without practicing. And it's just, what I try to encapsulate and try to think about is how people who had gone through such horror could come out and still have faith in God, and then faith to carry on, faith to build a future, faith to find some happiness. I never encountered bitterness from him in any conversation I had, other than the very, very sad sort of account he gave of his sister's demise, which he, in his opinion, could have been avoided, as she had been taken away by family members to the Russian part of Poland at the beginning of the war, but where a mother's love is so great for a child that the mother made a very dangerous journey to the Russian sector and pulled her back to come back to Poland, and unfortunately eventually landed in a demise. And I think that was, if I'd say, one of the great regrets of his life, it was that.
Yep. But he certainly passed on the joy of living and the responsibility of taking on the future, as so many others have done. And that is if I hear anything that unifies every single one of the stories of the panelists that have spoken about the survivor that's very special to them, it's that utter determination to say, "Wir sind da, we're here, and we will win through this." And that determination and resilience is unbelievable. Thank you so much, Ez. What I'm going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to, Jason, if you can unmute everyone, we're going to open it up for some questions and answers. We have about, if you'll give us a bit of liberty here, about 5 or 7 minutes or 10 minutes maximum to take some questions. Happy to do it just impromptu rather than relying on the chat, because not many people went to the chat on that occasion. But if anybody's got any questions or anything that they'd like to say, you can just don't all rush at the same time, but step in and ask your question.
I'll ask a question.
Please.
Hello. Hi. So it's I guess my question is, how do we foresee keeping these stories alive in another 10 years when there are no survivors living? And hopefully once travel resumes and we can return to much of the living, if there are no survivors to actually tell their story, what is the plan to remember and keep their stories alive so that this never happens again?
A great question, and it's something that has been preoccupying, the scholars, the museum directors, etc., around the world. That is, I guess, what the whole purpose of documenting testimonies, recording them, the Spielberg testimonies that were recorded, every Holocaust museum across the world has been trying to record the testimonies of the survivors whilst they were still living. There's a massive project that's been going on for a number of years to digitize all this stuff, to create holograms, to create all sorts of mechanisms that will have to, it's not the same, it's a meager replacement, but unfortunately, with technology, there's a lot of work that's been done in order to document this and to put it into formats that will be usable in the future. There's a project that the United States, the Spielberg Foundation, together with various other centers, have been working on various means to document this. The Jewish Holocaust Center in Melbourne has been doing a similar project. Every single Holocaust center around the world, I guess, is dedicating themselves to this task, and that will be the future, unfortunately. But we hope that it will be a respectful and well documented and well orchestrated memorial to the reality. Very good question.
Can I answer that as well? Can I say something? My father's Cooper Enoch, and he's in Sydney. I think you were with him on the 2007 March of the Living.
Yes.
He was one of the 6 survivors at our Sydney Jewish Museum who have been filmed to create a holographic sort of interactive. That's one way that we're going to sustain the survivors when they're no longer here. So 6 of those survivors have been filmed already in Sydney with the technology that came from the Shoah Foundation in LA. So that's really exciting for us.
Thanks so much, Pearl. And sorry, I've never met you personally, but your father was unbelievable, fantastic. He was together with Tuvia and with Martin on that same journey in 2000.
He and Martin were good friends.
Fantastic. Oh, good to see you.
Cedric, and probably Mel's got a hand up and she might want to be saying the same thing. We're both involved in the on the board of the Holocaust Centre, and I think one of the ways we would answer that question is very much about changing the sort of culture of a static museum into an interactive and experiential museum, where there'll be so much interactivity, so much touch, feel, sensation, that it is obviously it's a second class way of doing it in a sense, because it's not talking directly to a survivor, but it brings out and brings out those emotions that we want people to remember in their interactions with the experience and with when they think about the Holocaust. So I think that the new designs and the new ways in which museums work to be able to provide that is really important, and I would say that the one that we have here is going to be excellent.
No, I want to add as well from a third generation, or Uber's grandchild, is it might sound very small, but it's also as individuals to continue to be involved in the Holocaust, in the Jewish Holocaust story. And I think in Melbourne we are very lucky to have the second largest Holocaust surviving community outside of Israel, that we need to take it upon ourselves to continue to educate in any way we can. And you know, that would be my journey for years to come. And it might stop there because it's not the big picture thing, but I still think it's really important as second, third, fourth generation to now say, this is our role, this is our responsibility. How can we do this? Which is why, Nat, you asked the question. But if there's a big voice in the Melbourne Jewish community, we need to continue to raise this issue, because we raise it all the time. When I was a Majafar March of Living, it's the same thing. And when we continue to talk like this, it doesn't get lost, it doesn't get drowned out. We have to have enough passion to do something about it. So I think, you know, it's good to attend sessions like this to know that there are other people out there that want to continue this. Right. And we will, and I'm very determined with that. And again, being the second largest Holocaust surviving community in the world, it is our responsibility and no one else's.
But I'd like to actually praise you personally for the way that you have continued this this amazing journey of bringing the March of the Living with all of us who've now gathered here. But it's amazing that you, I think, pretty well single-handedly have continued to do all this. I understand all the people that are talking, and we should continue and continue, but you seem to be the only one that really brings everybody together, and it's continued on for all these years. And I give you my personal kudos. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, Henry. I can assure you it's not alone. I'm joined by many people that work on March of the Living, but I thank you. And there are other organizations that do wonderful work as well. We need to work together to maintain the message and keep putting it out there. As Ellie, George, Nat, and Paul, you can now add to that, please.
Okay, so just quickly, hi Nat, and I can tell you just from personal experience exactly what George, and I know the Sydney, that's not my dog, by the way, I don't have a dog, but the Sydney Museum and definitely here the Melbourne, the one in Melbourne, and the new centre that will be built. When my Zeta was in lockdown in Emi Monash last year, he had retired as a guide at the centre, could not see kids anymore physically because wasn't going in. The centre was closed because it was locked down. Because of the digital platform that they've got, the different programs they've got with Survivor Connect, and all the testimonies that are already recorded, you can go on to the Jewish Holocaust Centre website and click on different Holocaust survivors and hear their testimony. These are letters that my Zeta received in lockdown of kids and of students that watched his testimony and how grateful they were to hear what he had to say, and encouraged him that his story will be continued. And there was no centre, we were in lockdown, and he was not physically like educating kids face to face, but it's because we've got all this documented that people can watch it, that their stories will never be forgotten.
That's the true legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, if if you don't mind, I'm going to now call on Karen Katz. Karen, a dear friend and fellow colleague on Arch of the Living Committee of Management. Karen also joined on, went with her parents, both survivors. So Karen is a second generation, and she went on the march together with him. And I'm going to ask Karen to sum up the evening and to thank everybody for this fantastic event. Thank you. Karen.
Thanks, Cedric. Firstly, on behalf of Model Australia, I'd like to thank all the panellists for sharing their emotional and inspirational stories about their special survivors. It's through these shared stories and histories that we and the wider community are educated and reminded to maintain our connection to the experiences of the Holocaust survivors and also those who didn't survive, our lost parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, cousins, and relatives who perished. Tonight's event provides us with a further opportunity to remember these events that took place in Jewish history. This is living memory. To quote Hillel, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am not for others, what am I? And if not now, when?" It is always and continues to be our personal and community duty and responsibility for each and every one of us to take the lessons and experiences of the past so that we can do our part to ensure that these events are never repeated. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks to all the panelists and to the survivors for joining us, Rivka, Esther, and to everyone else in the audience. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
I'm a very tired, old and worn out man, and my eyes have long been blind. Most things that people say to me just seems to slip my mind. Oh, but the suffering and the painful times that were in years long gone are still as clear upon my memory as the numbers on my arm. What will become of all the memories? Are they to scatter with the dust and the breeze? Who'll stand before the world knowing what to say when the very last survivor fades away? As I hold my grandson close to me, and his fingers trace the pattern of my tears, he asked me, "Grandpa, tell me, why do you cry? What is it that you fear?" Oh, then I tell him once there was another child who smelled as sweet and felt this warm, but he was taken from before my eyes, and only I remain to mourn. Are they to scatter with the dust in the breeze? Who will stand before the world that now wishes to deny? Will they believe in someone who never heard the cry? What can I say or do to make things change? Time has a way of passing by so fast, and as a fleeting shadow, no one will recall the faces of the past. What will become of all the memories? Are they to scatter with the dust in the breeze? But one thought gives me comfort, it's all that I have left. I know God and the children, they